Hi everyone. In today's conversation, we have Yug, and Yug Bhatia is a founder of controlZ. I'm sure I will not disclose what controlZ is into. I would, asking, we'll be having a conversation with Yug because it is very interesting thing they are doing. So welcome Yug to our show. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm very good. Thanks for the opportunity.
Awesome. So I follow social media a lot because everyone follows, right? So Control Z, I was just Googling and I got stuck into Control Z's name in Google search and all. So it is very interesting thing you guys have come up with. It's been 3 years old thing, you have started. And the concept is, it's very interesting. So I want to understand from your point of view to start the things off, could you share a brief overview of your journey and how the idea of control Z took root?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. So, controlZ is a specialized company that we are working on. We buy back old smartphones and we renew them, make them as good as it's new, and then sell it directly to consumers. And to make all of this happen, we are creating a industrial and scientific base to make those old phones like new. Because it's not very, you can buy back old phones, you can sell it. That's the easy part, but making them like new is what changes the entire concept and how consumers react to the product or use the product. So that is the core of the business, and that is what we are working on. So it's been now more than 3.5 years since we have been working on this. If I have to tell you how the idea of it came about, it was about I think late 2018 when the refurbishment market of India, in the organized segments, really started coming. And what I mean by that is, everywhere in the world, there are people who consume smartphones. And that is true for India also. India, I think it's right now the second biggest market for smartphones. And when you are a big market for any new product, and especially for a high value item, it also becomes a very big market for the secondary market or the second hand market. Uh, so that is also what was happening in India. But the peculiar thing here was that although the smartphone market was highly organized, I mean, as much as half of the market is, half of the products are sold online. Despite that being the case, the refurbishment or the pre-owned or the second-hand market remained highly unorganized and is even highly unorganized even till today. I mean, less than 1% of new smartphones sold are organizedly refurbished or renewed and sold direct back to consumers. So in 2018, the big e-commerce company entered in this category and said they wanted to organize this industry because small mom and shop stores were already repairing renewing these phones and selling it to the consumers. But as an average consumer also, you would understand that a smartphone is a highly complicated product. It's a very high tech product, right? And it's not like a small piece of clothing that anybody anywhere can do without the in a scientific knowledge or the industrial base to make that happen. And when these companies also ended, they also ended not with that kind of mindset. These were primarily marketplaces, they did not focus much on the product. For them, the product was the website or the experience, etc., etc. The product did not mean the actual product that consumers were going to use. And over a period of time, consumers were not happy with even the organized refurbishment that was happening because it was organized refurbishment just for the sake of the word organized, but actual base was still the same. The component infrastructure was the same. The how phones were being repaired or refurbished were still the same. It was just that it was packaged in a different kind of form. That was the only thing that was changing. And at that time, coincidentally, I was also working on these marketplaces and came to know about what was happening here and see for myself that how consumers are reacting to the category. And for me, it was very clear that this is not going to go very well with the consumers for sure, because the experience was quite bad. Customers were extremely unhappy. And at the same time, what was the most fascinating thing was that the scale and the size of the market was so humongous.
Yeah.
It was so big that is unimaginable. Like for context, in India alone last year, 180 million devices were sold.
Oh, okay.
Every device every premium device can have a life of anywhere between 5 to 10 years. Non-premium device also can easily last for anywhere between 3 to 5 years. On an average, a consumer uses the phone for about 18 months. So there is this unutilized asset, which is unutilized approximately 70 to 80%. In a country like India, where people do not have the money to buy the product, we have this big unutilized asset. Yet, no company organized in an organized fashion and in scale has tried to do this in a better way, or has done it convincingly enough where the consumers have felt good enough buying a pre-owned product and have really enjoyed the experience. So when these two factors came in, that consumer experience being quite bad and the scale and the size of the impact that can be created, I think I was convinced that we should do something about it, and that is when we started. So it's like I said, it's been now 3.5 years. When we started, our idea was very simple. When you look at the refurbishment market in India or globally, refurbished smartphones are sold in different categories. So usually companies divide the products in 3 to 4 categories because there needs to be some level of assortment or some level of categorization, because every pre-owned product is different. As in every unit is unique. Some will have, let's say, 5 scratches, some will have 5 dents, some will have this issue with the battery or screen, etc., etc. Therefore, there needs to be a categorization, and then it needs to be put out to consumers. Unlike a C2C category where consumers are selling to consumers and they can actually show what the product is like. So this categorization, at least in the online segment, has done in a way wherein there are 4 to 5 categorization, starting from like new category to below average category, where every category will have some issues to its name. That is how the business is done globally, and that is how the business was being done in India. But for various reasons, consumer experience was extremely bad. Like, think of spending 20,000 rupee on an old phone and it being delivered to your house with or scratches all over the surface, and the battery health not being very good, or not the right kind of accessory being delivered with it. I mean, the whole concept just does not make sense. I would rather buy a new phone which is of a lesser quality, and that is what consumers have been doing so far. So our first idea was that this idea of pre-owned being unaspirational, or pre-owned being something that I have to hide, pre-owned being something that is cheap, has to change. So we have to present this phone in a very different way. So now when you see our packaging, I mean, this is not just about the product. It is designed in a way, I mean, you can like it or not like it, but you can't ignore it for sure, because we have designed an elevating mechanism in the packaging. So when you open the box, the phone kind of pops out and presents itself to you. So this is the kind of experience that we wanted to create, where consumers feel they are buying something nice. Then we worked on the concept of as good as new. We said here the product has to look like, because it is technically possible in the smartphone to make it like new. So we worked on a lot of things in our backend to make sure that the phone is cosmetically as good as new. Once that was achieved, we said, can we make the phone functionally as good as new? So we worked on things like improving the battery health. So every phone that we sell today comes with 100% battery health. This is also not done by anyone else. This is extremely important, because batteries are a consumable product. In any product that you use, for example, you would be let's say using a TV remote. When you use a TV remote for, let's say, about 6 months to a year, the battery will chemically age, and the remote will not work. At that time, you will change the battery, correct? But if the same thing happens in your phone, you will change the phone. You will not change the battery. So the phone has been designed in a way by most companies that the battery become irreplaceable or not changeable. Whereas batteries are always considered consumable, which means they last for about 1 year, 2 years, because they chemically age. So even when pre-owned smartphones are sold, they are sold with old batteries, and the consumer experience would, after a certain time, after let's say about 2 years of the smartphone, will not be very good, because it not only reduces the battery life or the life of the daily usage of the smartphone, it also reduces the performance of the device. And then from battery, then as good as new, we went on working on, we really wanted to give consumers very good accessories. We made our own chargers, we made our own cables, our own packaging. And the last thing to, make it, make it kind of convincing enough for the consumers. We thought that this category basically lacks its trust. Even if you have a great product, consumers will not believe it. So what do we do to change that now? What do we do to change the perception and not the reality? Whatever we could do with the reality, we are already doing. So we said, okay, if new phones come with 12-month warranty, what if we give 18 months warranty? Because we are sure about our quality. We know what we are doing. And we only deal in premium phones. So they actually have a life cycle of more than, let's say, about 4 or 5 years. So it is technically possible also. So we worked on that, and now we give 18-month warranty on all the iPhones that we sell.
Yeah,
So all of these things together, now we put together in all the products that we sell. There's only just one category. That is how all phones are presented, and we sell directly to consumers through our website. That's in brief about what we do and how we do.
So, you have started with refurbishment and all that stuff. So the trust thing was coming into my mind. And you also answered that, because why anyone will trust if anyone is taking iPhone? So, the trust factor is there. If the battery is original, if the spare parts are original of iPhone or Samsung, because these are in a premium segment. So trust factor also, you have just mentioned that you are providing 18 months. And, what good thing I liked is because 2018 was the peak period of the phone industry, because people got to understand the importance of phone. And nowadays what happens is, if any kid is going out for a study, so what parents would do, they will give like this refurbished phone, because the handle of the kid versus the adult is very different. So I think that was the time when you guys started, and that was the good, perfect time you have started. So coming on to the, next thing, you just mentioned that you are into refurbishment and all that thing. So, there are some implications might be there. Like, what I'm trying to address is, you might be addressing the electronic wastage and its environmental implications would be there. So can you paint us a picture of what inspired this mission?
Yeah, so I think this is something I already mentioned when I was telling about how we started. So I think that time I was talking from an Indian context, because that is where we started. And India in itself is such a huge market that you don't end up thinking globally. But if you think of right now globally, last year, 1.5 billion smartphones were sold. Only smartphones. I'm only talking about smartphones because I'll not go into other categories. If you include that, the impact will be even bigger. 1.5 billion smartphones are sold to people, primarily to people who already have smartphones. So these are not people who are buying their phone for the first time. More than 90% of them are, third time, fourth time, fifth time, 10th time consumer of a smartphone. Now, average usage of these smartphones is decreasing. Let's say it's about 18 months right now. The life cycle of these devices is more than 5 years. Now, every person, everywhere in the world wants a new smartphone every year.
Yeah.
So let's say 8 billion people globally want a new smartphone every year. Now, there are people who cannot afford it, so they're not buying it, or there is an extreme minority who is not buying every year, is not interested in that concept. But most people want a new phone every year. Now, a phone looks very small, and therefore we think the impact is very small, but that is certainly not true. If you look at a smartphone, it is one of the most complicated pieces of technology that we as humans make. But since it is so small that we don't think of it like that. Just for context, just to make one smartphone, the weight of one smartphone is only 300 grams. But in the process of making those smartphones, I think more than 200 kg of resources is used. Okay, so the end product is only, what you see is only 0.01% of the resources utilized in the process. And these includes rare earth metals, and these include extremely complicated processes. And to make one smartphone possible, there are, I think, hundreds of companies around the globe and tens of countries come together to make this one product possible. But since it is so evolved and the manufacturing is so good, and the economies of scale is so high, the cost has come down very, very low. but it's an extremely complicated product, to put it very simply, and the impact is extremely massive. Just to put some number, it is expected in the next few years, the ICT industry will contribute to about 14% of the total emissions in the world, which basically 14% is of all the emissions in the world. I mean, extremely high. And this is just emissions. So it does not include all the mining that we do to take out these resources, and the water being utilized in the process of making these displays and PCBs, etc., etc. I'm leaving all that aside. So it is an extremely big impact. But personally, what makes me unhappy is not the consumption per se, because people want to buy and they will buy. But what makes me unhappy is the unutilized resource. So basically, if 1.5 billion people want to buy a new phone, what is technically possible is we make only 500 million phones every year rather than 1.5 billion. And these 500 million phones will be the best phones, the most premium phones. All the phones should last 6, 7, 8 years. One person uses it, then the second consumer uses it, and then the third consumer uses it. This is a win-win for everyone, because every person will own a high-quality smartphone everywhere in the world. We can reduce our production 1/3, and the companies benefit, the consumers benefit, and the ecology also benefits. So that is the kind of impact that is the kind of direction that we would like to change the industry in going forward.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, because there is demand and there is less supply, so you are not oversupplied, and your products are being utilized by the correct portion of the audience, which is fair enough. And we are talking a lot of numbers and strategies and all. So for our audience, right, who are trying to grasp the difference between, how would you differentiate controlZ's renewed smartphones from the standard refurbished devices out there?
Yeah, sure. So what we are trying to do is essentially trying to create a slightly different category. So technically, you can call it refurbished only, technically. But in consumers' experience, it is nothing like a normal refurbished phones. And that is why we call them premium review phones. And the difference is, first of all, it is as good as, which means it is from a hand distance, it is indistinguishable from a new phone. This is not a kind of experience that you will get in any pre-owned or any refurbished phone. That's the first thing. You will get 100% battery health. This significantly improves your performance. You get our own accessories, which means premium chargers and cables. And the last thing being obviously the warranty, which is 18 months. This is even more than it. So I am breaking this down into individual pieces. But when you combine all of these things together, it is an as good as new phone for less than half the price. And and this is nothing compared to a normal pre-owned or refurbished phone, because basically all of these phones, unfortunately, are a compromised product. So they always have some issues, they always lack something, and they are just a cheap alternative. But that is certainly not what we are trying to do. So that is, I would say, the fundamental difference between controlZ and other players.
Nice. So, we are just trying to understand the journey of controlZ from last 3.5 years, and it's very interesting journey. But you are, explaining it like it's a smooth journey. I'm sure there are a lot of hurdles, behind the scene, which you guys are going on the daily basis. So, what were some significant challenges, controlZ faced in early days, especially in establishing product market fit?
Yeah. So obviously, I think we have had a lot of challenges, and especially when you are trying to do something different or something unique, then you are basically asking for more challenges. So it is basically a chicken or egg situation for us in a lot of cases, because we are saying we want to create this different way of renewing smartphones. So to put it simply, we are selling a different kind of product that look as good as new. But to make all of that happen, we have to create a different kind of process in the backend.
Yeah.
So we have done a lot of things. Maybe if you're interested, I'll elaborate that also later on. But we have done a lot of things in our backend. or in our facility to make these phones as good as new. And that required a lot of technical understanding, know-how, and experience to make all of that happen. And whenever we try to do something, it is always a question of, first, sometimes we want sale first to establish this. And sometimes we want consumers first to establish something else, or you need X to make Y happen. And that is always the case. That is a struggle that we still have. For example, the kind of category that we deal in, everything is related to economies of scale. So the more the scale, the lesser the cost, the lesser the cost, the lesser the price, the more the demand, we are better off. But to make all of that happen, you have to scale. But you can't scale on day one. So these are very principal problems that we have always faced and that we still face. But I think the smaller problems of understanding how to do it and the basic strategy were the kind of problems that we had in our, let's say, first year, second year. But I think right now we have extreme clarity in what we are trying to do and how it will happen. But now the challenges are of a different magnitude and of a different scale. But right now, I would say we have a lot of clarity, but challenges are, always there.
Yeah, I'm sure challenges are never-ending process thing, and it's good because it gives us clarity, like you said, for the future upcomings. So, what I understand with startups is, when we start startup and once we put our base, so we need a lot of strategic partnerships, to grow up, to go to the next level. So it's a game changer, for all startups. So how instrumental was marketplace collaborations in solidifying controlZ's market footprint and reputation?
Yeah. So I think that has been the most instrumental thing for us, because again, for context, we were not selling directly to consumers from our website. We only started that this year.
Oh, okay.
And right now the focus is entirely through that. And I think our primary business is right now coming from our website only. But in the initial days when we were testing the product, or we were starting to renew, or we were testing all of this, if we didn't have the marketplace to test our products, we would not know what we need to do. We would have all the mistakes that we did. It didn't really cost us that much because we were not the front face and the consumers didn't know what we were doing. And all the things that we created, whether it is the team, whether it is the facility, whether it is how everything came together, it was always from the focus of that eventually we have to sell directly to consumers. But to make that happen, we needed a very big stepping stone. And the marketplaces helped us doing that, because if that didn't exist, we could not test anything and we could not reach the level that we have reached right now. So I think that was it was extremely instrumental, and if that wasn't there, I wouldn't know how to trust it.
Yeah, true. And also, Yug, I believe that there is always a signature things, in a particular brand. So with you, I just wanted to understand, with pursuing a smartphone refurbishment landscape, what's the controlZ signature? How do you alleviate customer apprehensions associated with pre-owned devices?
Yeah. So, this is something, again, I mentioned very initially, that our idea of making this category work was that we need to celebrate the product. We need to celebrate the category. We need to, it need not be extremely loud, but the consumers should not feel bad about owning the product. That has to be the first thing. And we have worked on making the entire experience of buying the product, using the product, and even post using the product just like new. And beyond the experience, we have celebrated the journey of a pre-owned phone and how we are renewing it. So if I explain it a little bit, so obviously I've talked a lot about the product, but pre-purchase, how the experience is of the consumer. So if you look at our website, it looks like a website of a, let's say, when you buy a new smartphone. It is very similar to that. We are currently working a lot on it, and I'm sure in the coming few months it will come across as one of the best websites in general, not just pre-owned phones. It will come across as one of the best websites. We have partnered with almost all the leading EMI players in the country. So right now you can buy the phones on credit card EMI, debit card EMI with almost all the banks in the country. We have partnered with Bajaj, which is the leading player in this category. We have partnered with Zest. We have partnered with a lot of fintechs, Snapmint, BharatX, to name a few. And we are launching our own payment EMI solution for the consumers, especially for the kind of consumers who do not have access to credit, because that's a very big problem in India. So this alone is the payment solution is alone, and the EMI solution is something that we have extremely worked hard on. So the whole experience of coming to the website and buying the product, and then once you've got the product, how the product is delivered to you, what is the kind of packaging that it comes in. I mean, small things like this. In packaging, I've already told about the product packaging, but also the shipping packaging should look good. It should not come across as something cheap. And then once the product is in your hand, you should feel good about it. And when you take out the phone, how does the screen protector comes out? I mean, things like this also we have worked on. There is a special kind of coating that we apply to all the phones. So it looks slightly shiny, and it looks, even sometimes better than new. So small things like this. And then once you've got the product, the warranty experience, like I told, we give 18 months warranty. And this warranty is unique because it can be availed at the convenience of your home. So in thousands of pin codes across the country, you just have to make us a phone call or send us a message. And we arrange a pickup from the convenience of your home. You get the phone service and send it back to you. You don't have to go to a service center. You don't have to move out your house. So, and this is available for 18 months post the purchase that you have done. So just not working first, obviously product is the most important thing, but then after we have worked on the product, we worked on all of these different aspects, right from pre-purchase to post-purchase, where we wanted the consumers to feel good and happy about making the decision that they have made. And also, I think eventually, although a lot of internally, a lot of people, are very are confused about this aspect, but I think now we are seeing that consumers are also happy making the decision that they have made, in the sense of the impact that it creates.
Yeah.
So rather than buying a new phone, when you are buying this kind of product, there's definitely a kind of unique satisfaction or happiness that the consumer feels, and we communicate that to people also.
Yeah, awesome. So we are talking about a lot of customer experience point of view. So there must be a right balance you guys have thought about between the quality and cost to be considered, right? So how does controlZ craft its pricing strategy to both provide value and remain competitive in the market?
Yeah, I think that is the most important thing in the category. That is the most important question, because eventually most consumers, what we have seen is most consumers are buying our product because obviously they are getting great quality, but we have just entered the market, so they do not know everything about the product. And since we are selling online, they do not have the exact experience of the product also. So the primary reasons becomes price for this category. So like I said, when we started, we wanted to do all of these fancy things, but then is the consumer willing to pay for all of these things? And even if the consumer is willing to pay for all of these things, if you make it price beyond a certain point, then the consumer says, what's the point of this? I'll rather buy a new one if the price difference is so less. So you have to give all of these things without increasing the price. Now, this is the real work that we have done in the past few years. So in the back end or in our facility, we have done two things differently. First of all, is the concept called which we call as industrializing the renew process or refurbishment process or the repair process, wherein our facility works not like a service center or a repair center. It works like a factory. So we think of ourselves like OEM. We have already planned for the whole year the devices that we want to do and the quantity that we want to do. Basis that we formulate a plan, and we have a lot of machines and jigs and fixtures, and we worked on a discontinuous kind of assembly line, more like a factory. When we do all of these things, what it is basically helping us do is enable a factory-like process and not a repair center-like process. And the difference between these two things is, if you have experienced any kind of service yourselves, you would know that service is an expensive process. If there is any issue with your product, you get it you go and get it serviced, sometimes the cost of service is more than the value of that product at that time.
Yeah.
But the good thing about service is extremely agile. It is extremely flexible. You can do anything. But there is no economies of scale. So the more you scale, the more the cost. Whereas the manufacturing is opposite. There's economies of scale. So the more you scale, the less the cost. It's not agile. You can't do 100 things. You just have to do one thing. You just have to produce one thing at one time. But then if you do that, the cost decreases. So by doing all of these things, we are able to decrease our cost, but at the same time increase our quality. So although if you don't know about how we are doing things, it is very obvious to think that if your quality is high, then your cost also has to be high. But I think what we are making is not the phone. We are actually making the process to make the phone like new without increasing the cost. So that is the first concept that we follow, which is industrialization of the process. And an example of that, just for you to understand it better, is, for example, a lot of our process are now done not by humans but by machines. So things like robotics and like I said, assembly lines are already in place. So all of these things are significantly reducing the cost, but at the same time, significantly increasing the quality. The second concept is component renewing. So when you look at a smartphone, a phone is nothing but an assembly of, let's say, 50 different subcomponents. So there is the display, there is a camera, there is a housing, there's all these kind of different sensors, there's port, there is cable, all of these things are combined together to make this one phone possible. Now, when these phones come to us, they have certain functional issues and they have certain cosmetic issues. What we do is we disassemble all of these phones, put new components into them. But all of these old components have their own different process and own different cycle. So the displays, the removed displays goes to display team, the housing goes to the housing team, and the cameras goes to camera team. And all of these components, whatever issues they have, are renewed and made like new again. This is slightly difficult to understand, but basically, for example, the most beautiful aspect of our product for us is that when you open the phone, it will look like new, but it is very much possible that no new component was utilized in the process. These are all the same old components. So for example, like in cases of display, we have the capability to remove the scratches from the display, on the glass of the display. We have the ability to change the glass of the display. We have the ability to change the reflector, OCA, etc., of the display. So display is not just one component, it is also an assembly of multiple components. So here we can repair or renew a lot of these smaller aspects of the display. And the final product is like the new display only, except the fact that it is not new. And the same principle is applied to all different components. For example, housing, which is the back of the phone, or the sides of the phone also, which is mostly some form of metal, either it is stainless steel or aluminium. Here we use a lot of chemical engineering. We de-anodize, remove the existing paint, we do buffing, and then we repaint them. So the housing is actually the same old housing, but it is the color is removed, the scratches are removed, and it's repainted. And the same process is done in the camera, and the same process is now being done in even smaller components. So the final product again will look like new, but it is very much possible that no new component was utilized in the process. So here what we are doing is again reducing the cost and increasing the quality at the same time. The cost is reduced because it is repair rather than replacement, and the quality is improved because it is more and more original components are used, which is obviously better.
Got it.
So when you combine these two things together, which is industrialization of the process and component renewal, what you have in your hand is extreme cost reduction and extreme increase in quality. So the final product always high quality. The price is not that high.
Yeah, nice. So we are just talking as of now the buyer's point of view, right? So it is for my understanding, as a layman, for my audience understanding. If I am the seller, if I am having a phone, right? For example, iPhone, and I want to give to your, as a seller, say. So what is the process behind it?
Yeah, so we do not buy from consumers.
Okay.
So like I said, and I'll tell you why that is the case. So the first thing that I was talking about when we were discussing about the last topic was the industrialization of process.
Yeah.
Now, basically industrialization means uh, repetition in simplistically, in terms of production, which basically means I have to make 1,000 units of just one design.
Okay.
That is what industrialization enables.
Yeah.
So for this concept to work, you need to decide the models that we want to do or the SKUs that you want to do, because every model will have 50 different components, and you have to plan the supply chain for 50 different components. So what we do, what I mentioned previously also, was we have already planned for the whole year that the devices or the models that we want to renew. And since we have already decided those are the only devices that we want in our system, because we want to renew them and properly sell to consumers. And also within that also we are restricted. We, like, for example, we only do Apple and OnePlus right now. We only deal in premium devices. So when you look at the market, these devices are less than 5% of the total market. So if I go out and ask consumers to sell directly to me their old devices, 95% of these devices are not the kind of the devices that we want to renew because of various reasons, whether they are low quality or those are the brands that we do not want to do, etc., etc. So we do not buy from consumers. We buy from companies who buy from consumers.
Okay.
So there are different companies who buy from consumers. There are a lot of, if you go to any offline retail or online retail today, there's an option to buy back to sell your smartphone when you're buying it. So these are the kind of companies that we have tied up with in the whole country, and we do not buy directly from consumers as of now.
I see. Thank you for clarification, because this was the point, running into my mind. How about the seller? Great. So we have understood what you are doing from 3.5 years, and it's very interesting. Now, what about the next version, right? So there might be a roadmap for controlZ. You might have thought about it. Where do you see the controlZ in the next half decade, both in market and its eco impact?
Yeah, sure. So just to summarize the last 3.5 years, what we have basically done is create the principle of how we want to renew and how we want to sell. So our principles are set. And what we have also done, just for context, is also set up our new facility, which we're calling as the Renew Hub, where we'll be doing all of this at scale. We've designed this facility to renew about 5 to 6 lakh devices per annum. So in the next about 2 to 4 years time frame, we would like to fully utilize this capacity and sell directly to consumers through our website. So what this basically means is that we would be scaling a lot, and what would be our facility. But what parallelly we would be scaling is our ability to sell, which is a completely different thing. So let's say our capability to renew is something different, but then we do not sell B2B. We are selling everything directly to consumers. So what we are building parallelly is the ability to sell directly to consumers, which, for example, I was talking about building the kind of experience, the logistics, the finance options, right, available. All of these things are already available on our website. So we see our website as one of the leading websites in the country generally, not just in the category. And obviously in the category, we would like to lead in the next couple of years. So we would like to utilize the capacity of this facility and then sell directly to consumers from our website. So this is something that we want to do in the next few years, which is, let's say, about 2 to 4 years.
Awesome. Great. So lastly, in our question for a greener tomorrow, how can both consumer and corporations rally behind controlZ's vision and the broader sustainable movement? Can you explain more about it?
Yeah, sure. So, well, at controlZ, our mission is to increase the life cycle of a smartphone. I've already mentioned and I've already told you why it is important. And I think what we are doing, the biggest impact, the basic impact of that would be, first of all, that we create an industrial and scientific base to renew old smartphones. And now that thing can be, obviously, there will obviously be competition in the market. So a lot of people will, or a lot of companies will start doing that. And therefore, eventually the life cycle of smartphone will actually increase, because the ability to renew and the ability to sell the old will increase so much that a wider audience will accept these smartphones. So I think, first of all, from companies and corporations point of view, for us as a company, we can't expect people to buy old just because it is ecologically good. that is for the consumer to think. But for us, we have to make the product extremely good, extremely convincing. It has to be the best product in the market for the price that we're delivering. It has to be the best value product, and that is why we would want you to buy it. We don't want you to buy a controlZ product because it is good for environment. That is your call. We want you to buy it because it is the best value for you. Parallelly, we are doing it because it is obviously extremely good for the environment. And for leaving controlZ aside and all the companies who are in this kind of business, I think for companies who, let's say, simplistically speaking, are making new products, I think the change that these companies or corporations required is that we have to design for better quality, better life, and think of it more long term. It may sound very simple, but I think what corporations and companies control is supply, and what consumers control is demand. So if I make things that can last twice the time, or thrice the time, or 5 times the time, or 10 times the time, I mean, there is no need to produce so much.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not that old, but I know for the fact that 10 years back or 20 years back, when people used to look at even electronics, let's say a refrigerator, they would look at a refrigerator and they would say, okay, refrigerator means 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Okay, TV means 15 years. Okay, this product means 10 years. But suddenly, a phone means 1 year or 2 years, and a TV means maybe 5 years. And suddenly, the life cycle of every product is decreasing. But if you look at the technological progress, it is increasing. It is increasing so much more.
Yeah.
So I think there is this. It is quite counterintuitive. I mean, there is one aspect where you say ki, because there is technological progress, the thing is getting old, and therefore you need to buy the new. That is true to a certain extent, but in most products, that is not true. Like the products, like especially white goods, laptops, even for that matter, that I mentioned. But still, companies have really not taken that much, at least that is my point of view, initiative in increasing the life cycle of product and making high quality products, making products that last for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And the motivation for that also has to be on some level economic for businesses, because that is the basis of business. If you are making a high quality product, if you're making a product that lasts longer, eventually consumers value that. Eventually, if not today, but in the next few years, and therefore the value of these items also increases. Talking from consumers' point of view, I think what consumers need to do is to value companies like this.
Yeah.
So companies who talk about quality, companies who talk about products lasting for longer, consumers need to incentivize these companies, because see, most companies do not work, unfortunately, basis on what is required or what is the right thing. They will do what the consumers ask them to do. So if the consumers incentivize companies to make new products every day, then the companies will do that. And if the consumer says, we don't want new products every day, we want a product that lasts for so many years and it's extremely high quality, it should be the best thing that I buy, and I'll pay you extra for that, but it should last longer, then companies will shift their direction also. So I think that is the kind of relationship I see between companies and consumers. And if both of them play their role, I am sure we will have a brighter future.
Yeah, you perfectly said, because what I feel is companies are forcing customers that, like iPhone, right? So iPhone, every year it launches new iPhone 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14 and 15 and 16. So now
Correct.
what happened is, we as a consumer need an explanation to ourselves that, okay, I have iPhone 13, but in iPhone 14, this is the extra technological thing, which we are getting. So now what happens is, this iPhone 13 user will use 1 year and then shift to iPhone 14. But
Correct.
the thing you guys are doing, it's amazing, because there are few people, in globally, they cannot afford, iPhone 13, but they wish for, and, after refurbishment and everything, I think you are doing the good thing, making cost and quality feasible for the customer to go for it. And after talking to you, Yog, what I feel is, I also now got trust in refurbished phones, because the thing you are doing is, trust. The first factor is in this industry is trust. If you have got the trust of the customer, you are done. So customer will come again and again. For me, after talking to you, I'm sure, if I have to give my kids a high quality of phone, I would not mention the brand here, a high quality phone. So I will definitely go to your website because it's authenticated, and you're
But
also,
unfortunately, we're right now not in Australia, so you have to come here to make that happen.
yeah, it's okay, it's okay. You fingers are crossed. It will be soon, you never know. So yeah, so okay, in my relatives who are in India, who wants to give phones to their kids, and they will definitely come to website. You are getting 18 months of the service also. And yeah, today's talk was truly inspiring. You have quoted everything so smoothly, but I know in any of these startups, there are a lot of hurdles which you have to go through on a daily things. And hats off to you of doing such a great job. Thank you so much for taking out time today. And any last thing, you want to contribute from yourself for our audience, or anything you want to add on? Last few words.
So I think last few word would again be something that we were discussing a while back about consumers, because your audience would primarily be consumers of product.
Yeah.
And I think the try to understand a problem, the natural answers for most people, for most corporations, for most industries, is a solution that lies out of them. Which means if there is an ecological problem, the company should be blamed, or government should be blamed, or XYZ should be blamed. And to some extent that is true also. But on an average, we as consumers should understand the power that we have. There are enough examples in the world of companies who are trying and doing a good job, and their consumers who are incentivizing them to make that happen. And these are the kind of companies, or these are the kind of governments that are changing. So I think any business is run just like a democracy. Whatever you want, companies will give it to you. You have the power, the money, or the wallet that you have. And same is true for governments also. If you have an opinion and you are interested in ecology, you will push for the change. You will push for those kind of governments. So whenever we look at, especially since we're talking about ecology, because that is the context of the problem, an average consumer holds a lot of power. And the day we realize that the impact, we will see the impact immediately. So that is the last thought from my point of view. We should stop blaming companies and governments and start acting on ourselves. And we have already seen that happen in multiple companies, corporations, governments globally. And I think we should learn from that, and that is the direction we should go. And ending note would be, really thankful for the opportunity. You had great questions, and I really enjoyed talking.
Thank you so much, Yug. You have a great day, and maybe we can catch up some other day whenever I'm in India. So we can.
Sure, love to host you.
Yeah, thank you so much.